I'm 68. I want to say this plainly because I don't have the comfort of pretending there's plenty of time left. I'm not telling you a story to entertain you. I'm saying this because my body has already made decisions I can't undo, and I don't get a vote anymore. If what I say makes you uneasy, that's fine. It should. For most of my life, I believed my body was something I could deal with later. Not ignore forever, just later. That word did a lot of damage in my life. Later sounded responsible, mature, sensible. Later meant after the kids were older, after work settled down, after things were more stable. Later meant I wasn't careless. It meant I was prioritizing. I genuinely believed aches were normal. Everyone complained about their back. Everyone was tired. Everyone joked about running on coffee. When I woke up stiff, I told myself that was just age catching up. When I felt drained by mid-afternoon, I assumed that was what productive people felt like. I didn't see these as warnings. I saw them as proof I was doing something right. Exhaustion felt earned. It felt like evidence of responsibility. If I was tired, it meant I was useful. If I slept poorly, it meant I had a full life. Rest started to feel indulgent, almost suspicious. People who talked about balance sounded unrealistic to me. I thought discipline meant enduring discomfort without complaint. Skipping sleep wasn't neglect, it was commitment. Ignoring checkups wasn't avoidance, it was efficiency. Eating whatever was quick wasn't laziness, it was focus. Pushing through pain wasn't denial, it was character. That's how it was framed. That's how we all framed it. No one around me questioned it. My coworkers lived the same way. My friends joked about their health the same way. Even doctors, when I did see them, didn't sound alarms at first. Everything was manageable. Keep an eye on it. Try to slow down. Nothing felt urgent. So I kept going. I never told myself my body didn't matter. That would have been too obvious. I told myself it mattered later, when there was more time, when things calmed down, when life allowed it. I didn't think I was reckless. Reckless people drank too much or did dangerous things. I showed up. I worked hard. I handled my responsibilities. From the outside, I looked stable, reliable, practical. That's the dangerous part. This belief doesn't look like self-destruction. It looks like adulthood. It's rewarded. It's praised. It blends in so well that you don't notice it's harming you until your body stops negotiating. By the time I understood that later was never guaranteed, later was already gone. Years passed quietly. That's the part people don't understand when they hear stories like mine. They expect some dramatic spiral, some obvious collapse. That's not how it happened. My life didn't fall apart. It filled up. Every day looked reasonable on its own. I woke up early, checked my phone before my feet touched the floor, got ready without thinking, and moved straight into the day. Work came first, because it always did. Meetings, deadlines, calls, emails. I sat longer than I should have, and stood less than I needed to. I ate when it was convenient, not when I was hungry. Most days, that meant eating quickly, distracted, barely tasting anything. I told myself I'd walk later, stretch later, sleep properly later. There was always something more immediate. Someone waiting. Something unfinished. Evenings weren't rest. They were recovery. I didn't relax. I decompressed. I watched television half asleep. I scrolled. I sat still because movement felt like effort. When I went to bed, my body was exhausted, but my mind stayed busy. I woke up tired and told myself that was just how life worked. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. My roles defined me more than my awareness did. Employee, provider, reliable person. I showed up even when I felt off, especially when I felt off. Calling in sick felt like failure. Slowing down felt irresponsible, so I adjusted without noticing. I moved less. I tolerated more discomfort. I accepted lower energy as normal. The warning signs didn't arrive all at once. They blended into routine. Stiffness in the morning became part of waking up. Short breath became part of climbing stairs. Headaches became background noise. Poor sleep became expected. I didn't ask why anymore. I adapted. That's what autopilot looks like. Not chaos. Efficiency. I wasn't making decisions. I was repeating patterns. The same drive, the same chair, the same posture, the same meals, the same excuses. Days became interchangeable. I couldn't tell you what happened in most of them, only that they were full. Time moved faster because I wasn't present for it. I was always slightly ahead of myself, thinking about the next task, the next obligation. My body was there, but I wasn't listening to it. It had become something I carried rather than something I inhabited. Nothing felt urgent enough to stop, and because nothing stopped me, I assumed everything was fine. That's how years disappear. Not through neglect you recognize, but through routines you trust. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember that because nothing about the day stood out. No warning, no sense that anything important was coming. I was at work, doing what I had done thousands of times before. Sitting, reading, typing, thinking about what still needed to be finished before the day ended. I stood up from my chair and felt lightheaded. Not enough to alarm me, just enough to make me pause. I sat back down and waited for it to pass. That's what I had trained myself to do. Pause, ignore, continue. My chest felt heavy, not sharp, not dramatic, just a pressure that didn't belong there. I took a few slow breaths and told myself it was stress, or indigestion, or fatigue. I told myself I'd walk it off in a few minutes. It didn't pass. My hands felt weak. My thoughts slowed. Someone asked if I was okay. I nodded, because that was easier than explaining something I didn't understand. When the room started to blur slightly, someone else made the decision for me. An ambulance was called. I remember the ride more than I expected to. Not fear, annoyance, the inconvenience of it, the way I kept thinking about work I hadn't finished, the strange embarrassment of being the problem instead of the reliable one. At the hospital, things moved quickly and slowly at the same time. Questions, tests, waiting. A doctor sat down and spoke calmly, the way professionals do when they've said this many times before. He didn't tell me this was sudden. He didn't say it was bad luck. He explained that what happened that day was the result of years. Small decisions, delays, strain, where that accumulated quietly. He used a word that stayed with me. Accumulation. Not a single mistake. Not one reckless choice. Just a long pattern finally reaching its limit. Damage that didn't announce itself until it no longer had to. That was the moment I understood something had ended. Not my life, but the illusion that I could keep going the same way and adjust later. Later wasn't available anymore. After that day, life didn't collapse. It narrowed. That's the best way I can describe it. The world didn't end, but it became smaller and more carefully measured. There were medications to remember, appointments to keep, limits that weren't negotiable, energy that had to be rationed instead of spent freely. I noticed it most in ordinary moments, the ones I used to move through without thinking. Walking longer distances required planning. Stairs demanded attention. Sleep no longer reset me, it only stabilized me. I woke up functional, not rested. That's when the accounting started. Not all at once. Quietly, during pauses I never used to have. Waiting rooms, slow mornings, evenings when my body refused to keep up with my intentions. With nothing to distract me, memories came back. I thought about how often I rushed through mornings without noticing how I felt, how meals were something to get through, not experience, how many appointments I postponed because I didn't feel that bad yet, how many warnings I understood intellectually but dismissed emotionally. I realized how many chances I had to listen and didn't. I lost things that don't show up on scans. Ease, strength, trust in my own body. I lost the ability to forget about it. Every day now includes calculation. Can I do this? Should I? What will it cost me later? I missed years of being fully present inside myself. Not dramatic experiences, ordinary ones. Walking without discomfort, sleeping deeply through the night, waking up with energy instead of negotiation. I regret the conversations I never had with myself, the honest ones, the ones where I could have admitted that something wasn't right, that constant fatigue wasn't normal, that pushing through wasn't working anymore. There's no self-pity in this, just recognition. I didn't lose these things suddenly. I traded them slowly, without noticing the price. And once the trade was complete, there was no return policy. That's the part no one prepares you for. Not the illness itself, but the realization that so much slipped away quietly while you were busy proving you could handle it. If you're listening to this and feeling a little distance from it, that makes sense. I would have felt the same way. I would have thought this was about someone older, someone weaker, someone who didn't manage things as well as I did. I would have nodded, maybe agreed in theory, and then gone back to my day unchanged. That distance is built on familiar excuses. You tell yourself you're busy, that this phase of life is demanding, that slowing down right now would be irresponsible, that you'll pay attention once things settle, once the pressure eases, once you have more control. I said all of that. You might tell yourself you're aware, that you notice the signs, that you'll act if something serious happens. But awareness without response doesn't protect you. It just makes the delay feel justified. Your life probably looks full, not reckless. You're needed. People depend on you. There's always something that feels more urgent than your own condition. That's how it starts. Not with denial, but with postponement. You don't feel like time is scarce. It feels elastic, like you can stretch it, like you can borrow from later without consequences. That feeling is convincing. It's also temporary. Your body doesn't argue with your reasoning. It doesn't interrupt to demand attention. It keeps records quietly. Every missed night of rest, every ignored signal, every time you decide to push through instead of pause. None of it feels decisive in the moment. That's what makes it dangerous. You won't wake up one day and suddenly realize it's time to take care of yourself. There won't be a clean transition from busy to available. Life rarely opens space on its own. The space usually comes after something forces it. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because I recognize the rhythm of your days, the way weeks disappear, the way discomfort becomes background noise, the way you assume you'll notice when it really matters. I assumed that too. The problem is that by the time it really matters, your options are fewer. The margin you thought was there has already been spent. What felt like patience turns out to have been avoidance. I can't go back and listen differently. I don't get to test another version of my choices. You might still have that chance, or you might be closer to the edge than you think. That uncertainty is the truth I want you to sit with. Not later. Not when something happens. Now.